Finance Minister Godongwana has proposed a temporary slashing of the fuel levy. This as government tries to mitigate record high petrol prices, which have left South Africans paying over 21 rands for a litre of fuel. Godongwana proposing a 1 rand 50 cents levy reduction from mid-April until the end of May.
Honourable members, to mitigate the impact of these escalating fuel prices, I hereby table the following proposal, which will be included in the 2022 rates and monetary amounts and amendments of revenue laws bill for consideration by this House. A temporary reduction of the general fuel levy by 1 rand 50 cents per litre for the period 16th of April to 31st of May 2022. This will reduce the levy for petrol from 3 rand 85 cents per litre to 2 rand 35 cents per litre, and the levy on diesel to 3 rand 7 per litre to 2 rand 20 per litre.
Godongwana says the proposed reduction will be funded through the sale of strategic oil reserves.
The proposed reduction of the general fuel levy for a period of 2 months will not require adjustment to the annual national budget, as the proposal is expected not to have an impact on the fiscal framework. The proposed reduction of the general fuel levy will be funded by a liquidation of a portion of the strategic crude oil reserves. In this instance, the revenue foregone by the reduction in the levies will be recouped through a sale of strategic crude oil reserves, which are held by the Strategic Fuel Fund, which is a subsidiary of the Central Energy Fund. The sale will be required to raise around 6 billion rand. The sale will be authorized by the Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy, and the funds will be deposited into the Equalization Fund at the Central Energy Fund.
Well, the question tonight is there 1 rand 50 cents per litre levy cut enough reprieve for consumers amid record high fuel costs? OUTA CEO Wayne Duvenage joins us now to let us in on a little bit more on what's behind this. So there has been, of course, this back and forth around this particular reprieve. It's a 2-month reprieve. Is it good enough? Will it certainly help protect our hard-earned cash over the next 2 months?
It's never enough, not where fuel prices are at the moment. You know, when you just go back a year or so, we were below 15 rand. We're now going to be hitting 23, and we were moaning when it was at 15 and 16, 17 rand. So it's a serious problem. Look, they are between a rock and a hard place. They're taking this out of the fuel levy. That's going to cost revenue flows to Treasury of about 2.7 billion rand a month. And obviously it's temporary, because if things improve, if the oil price comes down, if the rand strengthens, we could be a very different picture in 2 months' time. So yeah, we would have loved the whole 3 rand 85 of the fuel levy to be reduced, but that would have cost them 7 billion rand a month, and I don't think we can afford that as a country. So it is welcome relief, but we would like to have seen more.
Yeah. Talking of the next 2 months, we also hear that there'll be an announcement, if I don't know if it's been made already, by the United States. President Joe Biden planned to announce that they'll be releasing 1 million barrels every day for the next 6 months, to amounting to about 180 million barrels of oil, responding, of course, to the Russia-Ukraine situation. Is that going to bring any relief?
Well, it's certainly going to be relief to Americans and their fuel price. And I think that's exactly what Enoch Godongwana is doing, the Minister of Finance here, because he is using in a similar vein, our oil reserves to reduce the burden on us for these next 2 months. So it might relieve the price internationally because it lowers America's demand for oil. So we think it could, but who knows? I mean, this war, if it's prolonged, and all the economic and financing of oil and gas, dynamics that have been playing out now, it could go either way, but it should have some relief, even if it's a small relief.
Yeah, it's the first phase, of course, of this process. The second phase, the minister indicating, will be, of course, coming from the Department of Mineral Resources, and that is to put a cap on the price of 93
Yes.
petrol. How does that work?
Well, I think, some time ago they had the demand side management levy, the DSML, at 10 cents. So they're going to be removing that from the fuel cost, one of the levies. We've suggested for some time that they look at that and a couple of others. And essentially what they're doing is putting a cap on 93, but allowing the petrol stations to trade below it if they want to forego some of their margin. So it partially sort of deregulating the price of petrol in some areas. As we know, diesel is already deregulated partially. So it'll be like diesel. And not many cars are using 93. Latest vehicles are all using higher octane than that. So it's not going to have too much of an impact, but it helps us remove that DSML component of the fuel levies. And there's a couple of other levies that they're looking at as well, the wholesale and retail components. Now, those two industries are fighting to retain their margins, but the calculations and the formulas used in them have to be reviewed, and there might be a few more cents coming out of that as well.
Yeah. And overall, I mean, is the expectation that when the conflict is resolved in Russia, Ukraine, we'll go back to, what we deem normal, around 15 rands or so per litre?
Yes, look, if the oil price drops down to, it's been well below $60 a barrel. If it gets back to those levels in the 50s, then the oil price is going to come down quite a lot. If the rand holds its strength and gets a bit stronger below 15 rand to the dollar, we could see oil prices going back down to 17, 18 rand. That would be good. As you know, our levies have all pushed there. They'll never go below 10 because all the levies alone just add up to 10 rand or more. But we see now they are being flexible on the fuel levy. But they will put that fuel levy back up to 3.85 rand the minute the minute the international oil prices come down. We think they will come down if the war stabilizes and oil is released back into the international markets at the favorable rates that there have been. Remember, there's been inflation and other factors before this war that was pushing up the oil price. So let's see what happens.
Yeah. In the meantime, of course, this relief does not mean that the price is not going up next week. So we are still likely going to see some predicting. I think the AA predicting a 170, 180 on the 93, 95, and maybe a little bit more on the diesel. So those hikes are still coming, but we will be cushioned off by this relief that was announced today.
Yeah. Effectively, we'll have about a 30 to 40 cents hike coming in next week, Wednesday, and possibly another hike in a month's time if these high oil prices continue and if the rand weakens.
Yeah. And the other issue, of course, is this issue. We were talking to Advocate Fikya yesterday around the extension of the expiry of driver's licenses. Minister only giving us 15 days. Is that enough? I mean, I was indicating that I've been waiting for 15 days for a slot. I don't know if I'll be able to get a slot in the next 15 days.
Well, firstly, we've been calling for the minister to extend. Last week they were saying they would not extend, and they have capitulated. They have extended. I think they believe that the outstanding amounts might be achieved in the next 2 weeks. We're not sure what the outstanding amount is. I saw an announcement today that it's around about 500,000. We put it closer to 1 million. So it would seem that, and look, just at the beginning of February, it was at 2.1 million people. So they are whittling this backlog down, and they believe they'll have it done within 2 weeks. Let's see what happens, but, well done. We do welcome this relief for the next 2 weeks. But the real problems have to be resolved that were around long before and still live with us long before COVID, and that is this online booking system. As you say, many, many people just cannot get their bookings done, and it's a problem. So we're waiting for them to fix the system properly, working with civil society, hopefully to do so. And then also, for the minister to consider the extension of the validity period from 5 to 10 years, which is common practice in many countries around the world, and we can't see why they don't want to exercise that option, because it's one that they have considered already in 2013. It was proved then, and they reversed it because probably they were going to lose some money.
Yeah, you are going to test this in the courts if the minister kept his head on the ground and did not give the extension. Does that mean you would abandon that process, or are there still other issues that you want to take to court that you would want to test around this extension of the expiry date?
Yeah, look, going to court is always a last resort. It's the resort we go to when there's just no other option. So we can see that there is a more amenable approach to engaging with civil society to find solutions. The court process would really play out if people are being fined for driving with expired licenses, and yet they've done everything they can to get their license. No judge is going to rule somebody having to pay those fines, and we will help society deal with that and fight those matters if it comes to that. So hopefully it doesn't, but let's see. We'll unpack that in the next 2 weeks to a month.